So the new Netflix original Stephen King adaptation, Mr. Harrigan's Phone, is here, and we got to watch it tonight. Now, on IMDb, this is listed as horror, and that is it, which is crazy to me.
Only horror?
Only horror. Usually it's always like horror thriller or horror drama or whatever, but this one just says horror. Pure nonsense. This movie is 95% drama.
Yes.
And maybe 5% undertones of horror. And arguments could be made of like the horror of grief or the horror of coming of age or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No. This film is mostly a drama.
It is.
Now, okay, as far as what this film's about, there is a young boy who is played by Bill Denbrough himself. So we get an It recasting here. Jaden Martell from It Chapter 1 and 2, who plays Bill Denbrough. He plays Craig, and Craig is hired by Mr. Harrigan, played by Donald Sutherland, and he asks him to read for him every 3 days a week. And this goes on for a long time. Now, it's weird to talk about the plot synopsis because where the plot synopsis goes, like as far as like selling the movie, you're pretty far into the film before the thing happens that's like, the hook.
Right.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because what this movie is really about is the bond and relationship between Mr. Harrigan and Craig. That is really what this film is completely about. Now, if you want to know more than that as far as what this film is about, Craig gives, Mr. Harrigan a cell phone. And Mr. Harrigan dies, and he buries him with the cell phone. And then he starts getting communications from the coffin. But yeah, I just want to warn people that this is almost completely a drama.
Yeah.
That being said, A, I did really like the movie, and B, this honestly feels the most Stephen King of an adaptation that I've seen in a while. The narration, the main setting, the Maine, the state, the main setting that's in Maine. So you got the setting that's in Maine. Yeah. You've got the the narration of a person talking from like the future about the story. This is very King.
Yes.
The characters and the relationships and a overemphasis on the slight towards screenplay writers versus authors, and that authors are where real writers are, stuff like that. Yes. Like, this is so King, and the way that this is directed and the way that this feels classic King to me.
Yeah.
Without the horror, right? This feels more along the lines of, I could say like Apt Pupil would be one of the more similars, but that has more thriller aspects to it than this one. This is like a much more slowed down Hearts in Atlantis kind of pace. But overall, a beautifully shot film, a fantastically well acted film, and also a film that's very heavy on message.
Yes.
So it was signed by John Hancock himself, the director, John Lee Hancock, who I've seen most of his films actually. But what do you think?
I really like the film. I was very into. I mean, as you said, it's super Stephen King, but it felt very comforting to me, and which a lot of King's works, like that's just the sense I get like when I read his books, and this felt very much like that for me.
Kaylee was close to crying like 10 different times in the movie.
I was so sad, and I think so much of it has to do with A, the writing, of course, but then also the performances.
Yeah.
I think were just so wonderful, and I was so connected to Craig. And King, I think that he kind of has this way of writing about kids, and especially when it's told through the future narration of the child as an adult, but the kids are always so like grown up and mature and like intellectual,
Sure.
and it feels like a very romanticized version of childhood,
Sure.
But I think that with with this story, Craig is a very mature and intellectual character, just like based on what he's gone through in life and the influence that Mr. Harrigan has on him, of course. So, yeah, I don't know. I was really into it. I think that the horror is non-existent for the most part. It has certain elements that feel kind of like I don't know what the word, like they're spooky, but they're not. But it is more of like a lifelike spooky, like dealing, whenever you talk about grief, I think that we use metaphors and symbols to talk about it because it's such a painful subject for everyone. Yeah. And that's kind of what this film felt like a metaphor for talking about like, the death of a loved one and how we try to come to terms with it.
Sure.
And how it can impact, who we become. So I just think it was a really beautiful film and I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I think, okay, so I do think that people will be underwhelmed with the film, and I think that will either be due to a couple things. I never read the short story this is based on, so I can't compare it to that. But what I can compare it to is either a preconceived notion based on the trailer or synopsis, or watching the film and maybe not even knowing what it's about, but getting to a point and saying, okay, this is Stephen King. Like, this is going to get real horror once he's dead and once, all that stuff happens and once the phone gets into play, this is where the horror is really going to kick in. And you really, like, kind of think that's where it's going to go. Mm-hmm. And it just never does. And it's a very subtle film. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's never grand. It's never like, there's these big, like, oh my God, Hollywood moments.
Right.
None of that stuff exists in this film. It is a very slow film. The big things that happen are small scale and kind of like oh.
Yeah.
Like an oh. Not a like, oh shit.
Yeah, just kind of like a oh.
It's like, oh, okay. And then you're very much left with, it's ambiguous for sure in its ending, and it's abrupt.
Yeah.
And I think people will be like, that's it? That's the film? So I do think this is going to be pretty off-putting to people who are going to feel that this film built something up and did not deliver on it. And I'll totally understand that. I totally think that's valid for your tastes. But I think that if you can handle a slower paced film and that you want to kind of dive deeper into the thematic elements of the film and how they apply to life and death, I think it is a very good film in that way. But it will feel lackluster to some for sure, and I have a feeling this will be one of those films that's going to be fairly split. But people who are kind of just like, nah, I just want spooky shit and I want to be thrilled.
Yeah.
This is not your movie at all.
Definitely not.
So pre-warning on that. But if you do like more subtle dramas with some horror elements to them, with ambiguity and abrupt endings, that leave you going, what was that all supposed to mean, and what even happened there? And
right.
I guess maybe I do have an interpretation that I think could be applied here for sure. But other than that, I mean, this isn't going to be the thrill a minute like some people might think it is. I'd like to watch the trailer because I didn't. but I'd really like to see how this is being marketed, because if this is being marketed as some horror film that, like, you know, the Harrigan's phone thing is like calling him from beyond the grave, and it's like, oh, and it's like playing that like real scary music and stuff, I would be like,
gosh.
oh man, what mismarketing that is. You're just setting this film up for failure.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
But honestly, I'm not sure how you market this film. This is a very tough film to market. This is a very tough film to market. We were just talking about in our Smile review how easy of a movie that is to market.
So
and
easy.
here's a movie on the flip side that's Stephen King. Right?
The master of horror, the king of horror. And
man, this is a tough. I would not want to be the person behind the marketing on this movie.
Especially, you know, coming out in October.
Oh,
like
100%.
There's so much expectation for it to be like an It, right?
The cover is literally the kid from It.
Yes.
On a grave.
Oh my god.
Like with
it's
this,
not
with this
that.
freaking, you know, ear to the grave.
Oh my god.
And it's like that scene in the movie.
It's not what you think.
It's not what you think it is at all.
Yeah.
It's a very sad movie more than anything.
It's sad,
and
but it's so good.
Their relationship in the film is super endearing.
Yes.
And very realistic.
Yeah. It's just, I think that the look of the film too, like whatever color grading was done on it, like it feels like you're in New England. And that I think also adds like the cozy element for me. It's, if you want to have a time to reflect about death and life and all kinds of things, this is definitely a recommendation. But as you've been saying, it's not for everybody, and do not go into it thinking that it will be something like Smile or, you know,
no.
It just won't. It's not.
Nothing like that. Nothing like that. But let us know if you watch it. Let us know what you think, and you know, subscribe
And comment and like, and check out all the links to the Patreon and the TikTok.
And the TikTok, because we're doing recommendations every single day in October that are dealing with different subgenres.
Yep.
Today was demons. Yesterday was haunted house, ghost, supernatural stuff, and the day before that was werewolves, and the day before that was vampires, and the day before that was zombies. You get it.
You get it. We're going through all kinds of stuff.
You know, we put 5 to 6 movies every day, lesser known, underrated. People love that word, so I threw it in there. But yeah.
So.
But yeah, let us know if you watch this, and see you then.
Bye.
Bye.